So the Schumacher documentary has arrived on Netflix, and when I heard the news of it coming, I knew if I had the capability to do so, I was going to watch it as soon as I possibly could. So I did. I watched it this morning, and so this is just a kind of an initial reaction because I only finished watching it a couple of hours ago. Now, obviously, before I continue, if you don't want to know anything about the documentary, switch off now. Not that there's any spoilers. It's a documentary. It's all information that's already out there. But if you don't want to know anything about it, obviously stop listening. But if you do want to know my reaction to it, just to give you a little bit of context, as you can see, I'm a massive Schumacher fan. I followed his career for all intents and purposes from the beginning up until when he retired, and I continually keep my ear to the ground for any updates on his current condition. I even had the very, very lucky benefit of meeting him very, very briefly back in the year 2000 when he had a very, very quick visit to the RDS in Dublin. I'll put a link to an article about that day in the description of this video if you want to read it. It's about 4,000 words long, and it is a bit of a tearjerker, so I apologise. So I won't go into any more information about that. But so this is just my initial reaction to the documentary. So just off the bat, it's not the most groundbreaking documentary I've ever watched. It's good, if I'm going to put a figure on it, 7 out of 10. But if you're a huge Formula One fan or a Michael Schumacher fan, it's not going to tell you anything new about his career that you didn't already know. As I said, it's all been very well documented before. Now, at least this is the first officially sanctioned and licensed documentary from his family and those that were close to him. There's been a couple of wishy-washy documentaries in the past, kind of an infamous one that I think any Schumacher fans might remember, one called The Red Baron, which came out in DVD over a decade ago. Terrible. So it's definitely the best Michael Schumacher documentary that we've ever been gifted, I suppose. Production-wise, chronologically, it kind of makes a couple of kind of jumps. It doesn't leave anything out. It gives you all the information of his career. But just like for an example, his crash in 1999 in Silverstone, they do show that and talk about it, but they don't mention the fact that he actually broke his leg in that crash and he missed essentially over half that season. They kind of just mention the crash and then bundle it into the part where there was a 5-year period where Schumacher and Ferrari were, rebuilding and the struggle before they went on to one of the most dominant periods of Formula One history. One of the good things though that I really, really enjoyed was the archive footage, and that was one of the things I was looking forward to the most, because Schumacher was and still is a very private person, so we never really saw or heard much about Michael away from the track. So there's some really good archive footage in there, and some really good archive footage from the Formula One paddock and circus itself, because again, Schumacher's career was during the Bernie Ecclestone era of Formula One, where Formula One was very much behind a closed door if you weren't one of the elite. So yeah, there's some great archive footage in it. Had I made the documentary, I probably would have made it a limited series. It's near enough to 2 hours long as it is, but I think it actually would have been better as a limited series, maybe 3 or 4 episodes, just to kind of flesh it out a bit more. Because they do kind of rush through a few little bits in it, which could have been given a bit more time. Everyone is present, every family member and all the key figures that were part of his career, they're all there. It's not quite like it's like to take Senna, unfortunately, as the documentary Senna, where all the talking heads, you don't actually ever see them. It's all they just use the archive footage. I kind of liked how that worked. It's a good style of documentary. But at least with this, there's no sugarcoating in this documentary. As amazing as Schumacher was, he's one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. He wasn't infallible. He made a few mistakes in his career, and they don't sugarcoat over any of that. Whereas in like Senna, they tried to dramatize it, and they made a villain out of Prost and stuff. There's no wishy-washy bullshit in this. It's factual, and they don't leave any stone unturned. They don't try and make Michael out to be anything that he wasn't. What else would I say about it? The final 20 minutes are probably the newest. I would say newest, but kind of like the last 20 minutes are where they get into his current situation. And admittedly, I must say, when I was watching it, I had a bit of a lump in my throat watching it, because they don't give a whole lot away. But again, look, spoiler alert if you don't want to know anything about his current status. But it's the closest we've gotten to any kind of news about how Michael is, and his wife Corinna. Her words, I'm paraphrasing a bit here, but she does say how she and all of the rest of the family miss Michael. So that kind of gives us, kind of what we already knew, but he's still alive, but is he corpus mentis? Probably not. It doesn't sound like he's communicative. And one thing that really hit home with me personally is when the final piece they had with Mick, his son, Mick Schumacher, who's obviously now a Formula One driver. He discusses how he finds it difficult that not being able to talk to his father now as a young adult, and obviously them being able to talk about racing and Formula One, as someone who lost their father prematurely. Admittedly, I was a little bit older than Mick is now. And obviously Mick's father's still alive, but he can't communicate with him. So, I can't communicate with my father. You can't help but miss and wish for those conversations you could have as an adult with more life experience, and you know what I'm trying to say. And then also one thing I suppose it does really highlight as well is the fragility of life, and how things can turn very easily, how delicate the human life is. I currently have a strapped up foot, not to say that what happened to me is anything compared to what happened to Michael, but in the sense, I went off a curb and put my foot into a pothole that was covered in leaves, and however really badly bruised and sprained foot. I wasn't doing anything crazy, I just stepped off a curb. Michael was out skiing with his family and he slipped and he hit his head, and just like that, he was part of a sport that was incredibly dangerous and managed to walk away relatively unscathed over essentially a 20-year period, and then just one quick slip and everything changed. So yeah, it does make you go like, you gotta take life day by day and embrace life, and don't take anything for granted, and just, love the people around you and enjoy life for what it is in the moment. And, it doesn't matter who you are, how successful you are, how much money you have, life is delicate, and we should enjoy it and embrace it. And as I take every day as it comes, I'm rambling now. I won't get into too much deep, meaningful, philosophical shite. But all in all, it's a pretty decent documentary, and I recommend it. So if you have even a passing interest in Formula One, I'd highly recommend it. If you're a huge Schumacher fan, I would recommend it. Especially there's obviously a lot of new fans to Formula One with the great season we're having, and the Drive to Survive series and stuff. There's obviously a lot of new fans who might know nothing about Michael Schumacher. So that's definitely, if you're one of those people, I definitely recommend you watch it. Or even if you just like a sporting documentary, or even you just like a good documentary, as we all do, it's definitely worth a watch. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. And again, thank you for listening to this ridiculous ramble. As you can see, I don't script any of this stuff. I'm just spitballing off the top of my head. So yeah, until I talk to you again, be safe, be well. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.